Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. I'm Ashley. I'm a homeschooling mom with 7 kiddos. We transitioned from public school to homeschool about 3 years ago. This upcoming school year will be our 4th year homeschooling. So I wanted to, with everybody kind of starting homeschooling, a lot of people that have expressed interest in homeschooling or just for reasons beyond their control have been kind of thrown into this lifestyle of homeschooling. I wanted to kind of list a few things of fears that I had when I started homeschooling. Not enough to obviously keep me from homeschooling, but I feel like a lot of these, or some of these, as there are many more fears that come along with this switch of lifestyle, especially if you are coming from public school. If you are starting from square one homeschooling, that this might not be as big of a deal to you. But for me, I know personally, these were my top 5 fears that I had going into this. The first being that I would not do enough. You get told all the time, and homeschoolers can get discouraged when people assume that you don't know what you're doing. And sometimes that is the case. There are some subjects that you might struggle with. There are some things in homeschool that you might not be comfortable teaching. But there is a reason that you are doing this. If you are feeling that push and that nudge to do this, there is a reason. I can tell you right now, you are fully capable of it. There are so many resources available to you to where you do not have to worry about if you cannot handle a certain subject. There are so many options when it comes to homeschooling. There are virtual, if you need to do virtual, virtual classes. There are a lot of curriculums have that. You can do a co-op if you feel better by having somebody else teach your kid. It's still a homeschool type environment, but a co-op atmosphere where somebody else teaches, one subject that maybe you're having trouble with. It is okay. You do not have to remember every single thing. And also, that is why it comes with teacher manuals, because if you were expected to know everything, there would not be a need for teacher manuals. Do not worry that you will not do enough, that you cannot teach enough. They will learn all they need to learn from you, or from how you decide to go about presenting subjects that maybe you're not comfortable doing. Do not let that be a fear. It was a fear of mine, and sometimes as my kids get older, especially with my oldest going into 7th, that is still a legit fear of mine. However, it has become a lot less so, because I know that as you get older, and as the kids get older, and as they get into subjects that maybe you're not comfortable teaching, calculus or, an upper level language arts program, whatever it may be, there are resources available to you. And there are so many other ways for people that are having the same issues as you. There will always be a way for you to teach, or for them to learn in a homeschool type setting. Secondly, that I would not have the time to teach everyone. It is a struggle sometimes. When I first started, I only had 2, and now I have 4 in that I'm working with. 5 if you count my toddler, which that's just kind of basic colors, things like that. It is a struggle sometimes, absolutely. However, I find a way to make it work, because I do not allow myself to think that not having enough time and not being organized enough for my kids to all homeschool would be a reason for them to go back to public school. It's just not. And also know that as your kids get older, they will be more self-sufficient when it comes to their curriculum. If there's something that they need to know, that they need to be taught, I will teach it to them. or if you're doing a different kind of format, they will learn it. If they have questions, they can come to me. They also have a lot more independent work, so that helps a lot. I will say, do your independent work, or here, let me go over this lesson with you. You go do the problems, come back and check with me when you're done. And during that time, I work with the younger kids. Also, the younger kids, and I'm talking my third kiddo is in kinder, and then my fourth is in pre-K. They do not need a full day of school. I mean, we're talking about a couple hours at most, and I don't even know if I'd go that far, depending on what we're doing. Obviously, my kindergartner needs a little bit more. My pre-Ker is a little bit more interested and excited to do his schoolwork, so I can get him to do quite a bit more. I'm interested to see how that goes in kindergarten, but they do not need a full day. Whereas your older kids, as they get older, it will take longer for them to do subjects. And even my third grader and my sixth grader have sometimes a big difference in how long it takes them. And that is okay. And I have made that very clear to them. Do not compare how quickly you finish versus how quickly your brother finishes. My baby's in the background. You can't see him, but you can probably hear him. Do not compare that, because he's on an more upper level math than you are. And yes, you might be learning new things, but maybe your lessons aren't as long. And if you have different curriculums, you can't compare. It is sometimes a juggling act. And I hope to kind of do a video on this one day where I show kind of how I do it. It is not always pretty. It is not. It is sometimes chaotic, and I just go with it, because ultimately I know I'm supposed to be doing this. I have one kid that is hard when they do not understand a certain concept. And sometimes that takes patience. I mean, patience of a saint at times. And that's hard. And that takes up time. But guess what I say? I tell this particular child, go to your room, cool off a minute. I cannot sit here and waste an hour while you throw a fit or whatever, and complain that I'm explaining this to you and you don't understand it, or you don't want to do what I'm telling you to do. Go to your room, cool off a bit, and that gives me time to work. I'm not going to sit there and listen to a temper tantrum for an hour. So it is hard. It is a juggling act, but it can be done. And it is more of knowing when your older kids are doing their work. Now's your chance to run in and do your younger kids. You just might have two kids doing two different things on each side of you, and that's just how it gets done. So it is possible to homeschool multiple children in multiple ages. I will probably do a specific video on that, but just know it's a legitimate fear, but do not let it stop you. Following a strict schedule. You'll hear the little toy in the background. Following a strict schedule. When I first started, I thought that I had to start at 8 and finish at 3. And like I've said before, that is just the mentality that I was in. And I felt like in order to do this the right way, that's what I had to do. And I was very, very, very wrong. The beauty of homeschool is that you can decide. You can, if you're having a bad day, you can say, guys, we're just going to take a little break right now. The strict schedule, I think, is what stresses a lot of people out. It makes people just kind of tense up and I think get very panicky if you're not right on track every single day. And that is why I have more of a loose schedule. Because if I had a schedule where an exact school schedule from 8 to 9 we're doing this, from 9 to 10 we're doing this, I have no wiggle room. And that just doesn't work for most families, I think, unless you have maybe 1 or 2 kids. With 7 kids, it does not work. Does not work. So do not think that you have to follow a strict schedule with exact times. Now, if that is how you operate and that is what your kids are used to, totally fine. But do not think that that's just a deal breaker, because it's not. You are homeschooling for a reason, and one of the perks is being flexible and allowing yourself the flexibility to do things as you wish. I had a fear that my kids would want to go back to public school. I've never had them say they want to go back to public school. I've never had them say that. I know that there's some things that they miss from time to time, but it is not something that I feel like would be enough to make them want to go back. And I've reiterated to them, this would be your schedule. If you decided, if I put you back in public school, this would be your schedule. Now, my third kid only did half of pre-K, so she thinks that that is school, and that is for all grades. Obviously it's not. So I've had to tell her, hey, if you went to school, you would not be going back there. You would be in a big kid school, and you would have to sit and do work for a lot longer, especially when she's complaining about doing something. So I think my older two know how good they have it here, but it's always in the back of your head, like, oh man, did I make the right decision? I also consulted my older two when I was thinking about this, because I feel like yes, it was my decision and my husband's decision ultimately, but I felt like getting their opinion helped, and saying, look, this is what it's going to be like. This is going to be a whole new world for you. But these are the perks, and these are the things that you get to do. Waking up at the crack of dawn every morning to get ready for school is not something that they miss. So I think when they have those fears, when I have those fears, and if they indicate like maybe that's what they're thinking, like, I don't know, such and such teacher taught it better than you, or, I remind them how their schedule would actually be and how their days would actually be if they were in school. So yes, that is a fear. And yes, they might indicate, if you are coming from public school, there will be a transition period, and it might take a little bit. It might take a minute for them to realize how good they have it here at home. But do not let that be a fear of yours, saying what if. All these what ifs can creep in at any point in time, and many days they do for me, especially if I'm having just a crazy day and I just got to stop and regroup and change my way of thinking. Finally, not picking the right curriculum was a fear of mine. I felt like at first I had to pick something and stick with it, and that was it. Whether or not I liked it, once we started it, that was it. That couldn't be further from the truth. As I've mentioned before, we've switched quite a bit, mostly math, but we have made quite a few changes. And each year, like I've said before, I reevaluate everything, and I kind of figure out what is working for each child. Is this particular curriculum or this particular way of doing math, is this how we want to be? Is this how this child excelling in this, or are we not getting it? I have switched math curriculums a few times with my older kid, and it's been fine. We are back on track. You can always be back on track. If you decide to switch a curriculum mid-year, go through the book and see, okay, did we already go over this? We don't need to re-teach things just because it's in the new curriculum. If they know it and they've mastered it, move on. So you don't necessarily have to start at the beginning if you switch curriculums. So, my fear when I started was, I got to pick a curriculum, I got to stick with it. I don't care if we hate it, because then we'll be behind. No, you just pick up where you basically left off from your material. And also you can go back and learn things and reteach things, or have things retaught to you, whether it's on virtual or whatnot, if that's something that the kid is struggling with. So sometimes switching curriculums is really a blessing in disguise, because it helps them with the information that they're having trouble with. So those are just a few of the things that I had that were my biggest fears starting homeschooling. And like I've said, some days are struggles, and some days these thoughts creep in, and you just have to kind of block them. Ultimately, your goal is to provide your children or child with an atmosphere that could not be given to them in public school. And I have seen that being in public school, having kids in public school, and I see the benefits of it, and I constantly see the benefits of it, and they completely outweigh the fears that I have, especially as you get more comfortable and more into a schedule and more into a routine of doing this and knowing that this is your everyday. So let me know if you have any other fears that you guys can think of that maybe almost stopped you or are trying to creep in, that are trying to, prevent you from homeschooling. I'm pretty sure I have experienced it at some point, whether it be at the beginning or, throughout the last 3 years. You just have to have that mentality that you are meant to be doing this. This is your path. This is your calling. And you and your kids will reap the benefits in the end. So let me know if you have any questions. I will see you guys next time. And as always, thanks for watching.